From the architecture of communities, we will transition now to turn to one of the most powerful and ancient tools for transmitting values across them, the story and the storyteller. Gina Otto is an author, international speaker, and founder of We the People's Fund. She is the author of the #1 best-selling children's book, Cassandra's Angel, and the founder and CEO of Gina's Inc., a mission-driven media and social enterprise that uses social emotional storytelling and gamified learning to inspire children around the world to take action on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. For 20 years, Gina has taken her work directly to girls and women in war zones, child soldier refugee camps, human trafficking shelters, and orphanages across Southeast Asia and Africa, but also across troubled zones in America. She was most recently the senior advisor to Pope Francis's Summit on Climate and the One Human Family. Her next trip will be to Kyiv, Ukraine, to work with children affected by the war. Gina, enlighten us and share your beautiful perspectives.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you so much. It's such a wonderful opportunity to be here. And thank you so much to Barbara and Gordon for founding this extraordinary initiative in a moment where the world is truly at an inflection point. So my journey with peace started when I left a 12-year career in Hollywood as a film producer to write a fairy tale that ended up taking me all around the world. And it was a moment that changed my life forever and is still changing my life. My children's book, Cassandra's Angel, is about the stories that we are given from the people in our lives about who they think we are, and then dropping those stories so that we can become who we came here to be. It's about a little girl named Cassandra, and she is truly a bright light in this world. But every time she turns around, there is someone telling her that there is something wrong with her. She's a mess. She's too different. She's incorrigible. They have no time for her. And every time she hears one of these stories, a little bit of her light goes out until finally she is sitting in darkness. And she has to make the decision, either I am everything that they think about me, and if that is the truth, I might as well disappear into the faceless crowd. Or I am who I know that I am. And in the moment of the I am, an angel comes to remind her that she is not the story, that she has never been the story, that she is in fact a bright light. And when you find that truth and you find that light, you light up the whole world. So right about the time that Cassandra's Angel became a #1 bestseller, I made a commitment to take this little fairy tale of light into the darkest places in the world. And that commitment took me right into the war zone in Sri Lanka. And I was actually in Jaffna on the other side of enemy lines, 1 mile from the front line, in a live minefield, doing a Cassandra's Angel talk with 15-year-old girl paramedics, because most of the men at that point had died. And the girls were from both sides. And we had the conversation about life and peace, and that none of the war, none of the death, none of the killing had been worth it. I traveled from there into the human trafficking shelters of Cambodia, through the girls' schools, into the birthing centers in Africa, and then I came back to the US and I visited the Title I schools here in the United States: Camden, Brooklyn, Bronx, Washington, D.C., Miami, Atlanta, schools where there are no toilet seats, no janitors, where black mold is coming out of the air conditioners that do not work. And no matter where I went in the world, no matter what the language, no matter how many translators, I would stand in front of these children and I would say, this is your moment. And it is an alchemical moment, because you get to declare to me, to yourself, and to the world, are you the story of fear and poverty and genocide and war and human trafficking and always being on the outside looking in and never being enough? Or are you perhaps the bright light who came here to shine for the whole world? And of course, every little hand would go up and say, I'm the light, Miss Otto. And I'd say, I believe you. Now let's make it real. Let's find a way to change the world. And I remember one little boy standing up and saying, but we have nothing, we have nothing. And in that moment, I leaned forward and said, my darling, you have everything. You have everything. Do you want me to tell you the secret of how we change the world? And they all leaned in. I said, it's really quite simple. Find someone less fortunate than you and do something meaningful. And that inspired a global movement of children taking action, which led me to come back to New York and found a technology company with a group of extraordinarily talented people. And we ended up gamifying the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We had games on polar bears and monarchs and educating girls in the developing world. We had games on asteroid mining and floating city architects. And I had a vision of 1.1 billion children taking small, meaningful actions on behalf of themselves, their family, and their communities, truly creating a model for global change that could actually work. And through all of this work, I have just realized that all any child needs, all any one of us ever need, is a sincere invitation, an invitation to shine our light, an invitation to find our voice, an invitation to realize that the world is incomplete without us. And that when we take that space, when we sing that note, when we are part of the global song of humanity, I believe that that is a song of peace. And so I'm continuing this work. As you mentioned, Lindsay, my next trip is into Kyiv, into the war zone, to work there with the Office of the First Lady, Olena Zelenska, to work with the children, and especially the children that have been repatriated from Russia. And I'm bringing a delegation with me, and I will be so delighted to fill you all in on the other side of that trip.
Extraordinary and epic, Gina. Thank you for sharing all of this. A follow-up question for you. Cassandra's angel has traveled to some of the most difficult places in the world, thanks to you. What does it mean for a child in a conflict zone to encounter a story that reflects the possibility of a different future, that crazy idea of hope? And what does that do to their relationship with peace?
It's interesting because I heard at one point that hope is dangerous. And I absolutely counter that. Hope is imperative. And when these children truly stand up and say, we have nothing, connecting them to an idea of hope means everything. And the conversations that we have are not only where are we right this moment, where are we in this world, in our surroundings, we look down at our feet and we see where we're standing. But then together, we hold hands and we imagine the world that is possible. And I bring that invitation back into the conversation. What can we do every day, one small action that can help to create the world that we see, that we want, and that we absolutely deserve?
Extraordinary, Gina. Can't wait to see what you do next. I'd now like to transition to a moderated cross-panel discussion of a couple of questions for our panelists. We've heard in the transition to this discussion four distinct and deeply complementary perspectives on what it takes to build and sustain a culture of peace through education and culture, that shared infrastructure. I'd like to open the conversation across the panel and explore where these entry points might converge. From pillars to practice, we've heard about values, community architecture, storytelling, and scalable peacemaking skills. Where do you see the most powerful points of connection, and where do these approaches most need each other?
So it's interesting because it's what we're working on right now. And I think it's really going cross-sector, public-private partnerships, as well as getting, as Stephen discussed, AI, technology, the corporations, the nonprofits, indigenous grandmothers, children. It's an amazing thing when you have everyone at the table. And I have to give a big shout out to The Hague because they're very good at that. In every meeting that I attend there, um, people are represented from everywhere in the world, and they all have a voice. They shared with me, the idea of, the little Dutch boy, with his finger in the dike, became their symbol because when the country was getting ready to go underwater, the kings had to work with the farmers who had to work with the merchants, and that is the way they saved their country. And I've taken that with me into all of my meetings, believing that that is how we're going to save the world.
I'll do a final question. Well, I'll ask our speakers, our distinguished guests, to answer in 1 to 2 sentences a very hard question. Our formal education systems were not designed with peace as a central organizing purpose. What is the most important thing they consistently leave out? And in that, where do you see the single greatest gap between education and culture and what they're currently doing in talking about the peace impact they could have?
I would humbly submit that part of what we are experiencing right now, this extraordinary backlash, which is really rooted in anything but peace and violence, is because it was working. It was working. And that is the commitment that no matter what it looks like, that's the story. The truth is that we are the light. And we took that idea into everything that we do. All of our games are social emotional learning. Everything that we are creating, the conversation that we're having right now, the invitation. I think we keep coming back to this idea of the invitation. And Barbara talks about, the irresistibility of it all. Because the world that we're talking about is extraordinary. The world that we're talking about, the world that we want, the world that we are all committing our lives to and leaning into, that is a world that is for everyone. And I always go to bed at night with the final thought that no matter what, there's more of us than there is of them. They're just louder. So it's our moment to hijack the narrative.